Well, good morning and welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. How are you all today? I want to talk today about real and total preparedness. Lately, I've had several up there about, I think I've titled them Total Preparedness or whatever. But if you've if you've been with me for any length of time, you know that I promote positive preparedness. I don't promote being scared of the latest thing that came down the road or the latest thing that everybody jumps up and down about. I promote the idea that the more prepared you are, the better you're going to live today and when anything comes your way. Yesterday, so I want to talk about real preparedness, overall preparedness, a kind of preparedness that provides an umbrella for pretty much anything that comes down the road. Many people, sadly, don't think about this enough because it's easier to get all excited about the latest thing that's all scary, and as a result, a lot of time and money and attention and emotional energy is wasted on that, and they get caught up in this never-ending hamster wheel of fear and anxiety. That's not the way that you should live. You should live a life of intentional action, of joy, of peace, and of certainty that you are doing what you can to not only better your life today, but to prepare for the whatever may come down the road. Yesterday, as I talked about the the Hunger Games, I talked about I had watched the movie and I had suggested, and I talked about one of the lessons out of there was making people like you or being nice. And as I went through the comments over on the Patreon channel, because everything that goes up on YouTube also goes on the Patreon channel, and then we put a whole lot of other stuff on the Patreon channel. So if you're not with us on the Patreon channel, you should be if you're really interested in preparedness, and the link is down below. But I checked, and it really is, it's a community up and above the community of YouTube. And I don't say that to put down the folks that we have on YouTube. I say that simply to say, if you are a cut above, you're on YouTube and you're not with us on Patreon, you belong with us on Patreon. So again, the link's down below. But I was reading through the comments and this morning, and I saw a couple that stood out. And so I want to share it with you all, especially those who are kind of new to us and are really wanting to learn about how to prepare totally. And it can be daunting, and I don't want it to be. I want you to think of this in a positive way, and so that each step that you take is one that makes you feel good, not that you're doing it trying to run away from the problem. So there are a couple of these comments that I wanted to read, and one is from CJ, and they say they were talking about read the Hunger Games. They liked it, but then they said they started a new series, and they just started book 3 of this series, and so I'm going to tell you about this. They said it's very difficult to put them down. My sleep schedule is suffering greatly. I try to stop at the end of a chapter, but it may end in the middle of some situation where you can't just leave them there, abandoning your responsibility to your friends. and people kind of get to know, they become a part of this book series, and they do become friends. They say that this is somewhere that they would prefer to live than where they do. They say, so I read another chapter to know they pulled through and are safe. But the author has a knack of ending most chapters with some challenging cliffhanger ending, so it's difficult to break away from the story. So I check my watch, groan, knowing sleep will have to wait until the end of the next chapter or the one after that. I have laughed out loud. I have become angry, had tears well up in my eyes, and felt a deep appreciation for things in my life I have mostly taken for granted. A regular emotional roller coaster. Well done to the author. And then there was another one down there, and it said, this is from Lori Coyle. She says, I have read the entire series all the way through a bunch of times, and I get new insight each time. I finally started taking notes. The problem there is that I get caught up in the story again and forget to jot things down and have to go back. Well, that's quite a recommendation for a book series. And the book series that they are talking about, I want to show you because it has to do with real and complete and positive preparation and survival. And that book series is, and some of you aren't surprised, it's the Stonemont Series. The Stonemont Series, the reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and the very latest one that's just blowing off the shelves, hostages to fortune. Now, why do I have all these books here? Because I read them all? No, because I wrote them all. I know a lot of you out there are old-time people, probably knew that I was leading up to this, but many of you newer people who are with us don't realize these are the books that I wrote, and they are the complete plan, battle plan for preparing for, surviving, and then rebuilding after a complete collapse. Many people are surprised that, and they they are for sale. I should put it like this. You can get them either through Amazon. The links are always down below. Either through Amazon, or you can get autographed copies from me by going to our website at stonemont.us, not .com, stonemont.us. And there's a way that you can go on there. You can use your credit, debit cards, whatever, and you can ask me to sign them. I'm happy to. I just sent out a whole load. And that's also why I have all these books behind me. Now, why do I say that? Many people who are new to the channel are kind of surprised to find that I wrote those books, and they think, well, gee, here's a guy with a YouTube channel, and he wrote a book or two. Well, the funny thing is, I'm not really a YouTube guy. I'm a writer. Okay, I've taught preparedness and survival for 40 years. Writing is how I make my business. I get amused. I saw one the other day that said, well, I'm reading this and so far it's good. As if they were surprised that some guy with a YouTube channel wrote a book that was good. Well, see, I'm not a YouTube guy. I'm an author. And so that's what I do. The reason that I talk about this is that real preparedness, total preparedness, is a very wide and deep subject. And I've heard so many people say, well, it's impossible to be fully prepared. And I ask them, have you read my books? And they will say, well, no, but let's see. The thing is, the reason that people don't feel that they can be totally prepared or real preparedness is because they haven't thought about it enough. They haven't thought far enough down the road. They haven't thought widely enough as to the many things that can happen in the world and to you. And as a result, they may follow one particular path or not go far enough down the path, and they know that they're not prepared, and that leaves them with the fear and anxiety of knowing that, well, they're not ready if something happens. And so what I try to preach is your preparedness journey, the journey that takes you to the point where you will be able to survive and live well regardless of what happens. It is an extensive one, okay? And I don't want you to believe that it can't be done, because it can. Behind me is one of my favorite pictures. I bought that years ago because I like the lessons that it carries. It's a bridge, and if you'll notice, on the other side of the bridge, the path doesn't go straight. You have to make a decision. You have to either go to the right or to the left. And you know, it's an illustration of life. As we go through life, we make decisions. And there are times in our life we go across a bridge, sometimes by choice, sometimes because we have to. And these are times of our lives that we go through or over or whatever, and it leads to the next section, a new section of our life. And it could be as a result of a new understanding or a new necessity, whatever. And when we get over there, now we have to make a choice. Which way do we go? Do we go left or do we go right? And usually, you know, if I was going to paint a picture that goes beyond that, I would paint a path that to the right that you can see a little ways on, but then there's a bend you can't see around, and the same way to the left. And that's life itself. You make a decision and so which direction you want to go in life. You can't be sure though what's around the next section, what's around the next bend. And so that's that's the importance of preparedness. And really this is this is an illustration of whether a person decides once they get across that bridge of realizing that preparedness is important and necessary, which direction do they choose to go? Do they choose to just kind of, as I've said before, splash around in the shallow end and say, oh, life is scary and dangerous, and I'm just going to do a few things and I'm going to react to the latest fear of the day? Or am I going to approach this responsibly and approach it in such a way that I'm going to develop over time a firm foundation of preparedness and a long-term plan? And that's the way you become successful. You know, there's no flash in the pan success in anything in life. Anything important or valuable is the result of doing the right things over and over and over again. First, you have to know what the right things are, and then you have to apply yourselves to them. So this is the lesson that I try to explain, and I think it's very important. Our world is falling apart. It's been falling apart for a while. Any number of things could bring us down. Whether it's an impending world war, whether it's a financial collapse, a government collapse, a collapse, any of those things. And they are right now having a detrimental effect on our society, our country, our world, because I know not everybody here lives in the United States. And by the way, I want to send out a special welcome to all of the people. I'm always amazed at how many people around the world watch this channel. And so for everybody in Canada, Australia, South America, Europe, there's places that I've just been astounded that people watch this channel. A shout out to you, a big hello and a big welcome to you. It's great to have you here. But any of these things happening worldwide or in our country, the United States, or perhaps in your country, could bring us down. And yet a lot of them are happening at the same time. So when you stir that pot of things, any one of which could really cause you a problem, and you bring them all together and you bring them to a boil, you need to be prepared. That's why I've been preaching this for 40 years and for a few years here on YouTube. And it's why I wrote these books. I'll go back to explain a little bit more about this. When some years ago, I ran into a guy last night who actually is reading just my first book, and he was telling me how much he liked it, and we got to talking about books and things. And I explained to him, even though I've been, teaching this stuff for years, when that show, what was it, Doomsday Preppers came out some years back, people who knew that I was involved in this stuff started asking. That's what brought preparedness to the mainstream mind. They started asking me about, what to do, how to do things, and that's what caused me to write my first book. At first, I just meant it to be a short story because I would keep explaining it to people, keep explaining it. And then when I realized they weren't really understanding the complexity of true preparedness. Now, I don't want that idea of complexity to scare you away, because it may be complex. I was going to say it's not complicated. But complicated implies complexity, and vice versa. But it's not hard if you follow a simple plan. And so I realized that I needed a way to just give people a simple plan in the form of a story that would make sense, rather than just, give them on a list and do this and do that and do this and do that. And that's how the reversion came to be. I ended up thought I was writing a short story, and ended up writing a book on exactly, and it's a novel. It's about people going through this. It's about a prepared family who, as a result of their preparedness, was able to do well after a collapse and help other people and bring other people into a community that then allowed them all to live a better life. Okay. Not just better than they would have otherwise, but in many cases better than the lives they had lived before the collapse. And that was my lesson. Anyway, it became a book. At the end of that, I realized that people were asking more questions. Well, what about this? What about that? And what happened? And a lot of people got into the book, and they said, well, what's going to happen with so-and-so? And I'd read the reviews on Amazon. I can't wait to see what happens with so-and-so. And so I said, well, I guess maybe I'll try to write another book. And so I did, and that became The Revival, and I kept on going, because this is the lesson of life, and it's the lesson of preparedness and survival. And you are always addressing the what next, and what then, and what else. And so it turned into what is now a 6-book series, and I'm feverishly working on the 7th. For those of you who are saying, when are we going to get number 7? Well, I'm working on it. I'm not going to push it, I want it to be right, but it'll be ready when it gets ready. But it's an entire series answering all those questions about what next, what if, and what else, in a story that makes it. This is why Lori Coyle said, she keeps reading them through. I just had somebody tell me the other day, it was one of the comments, they've now completed reading through the whole series for a 5th time. And people will say, every time you read it, you will get more out of it. Now, is this just one big long commercial for my books? I know that someone will come on and make that claim. No, it's me trying to explain that's why I wrote these books, so that people would be able to get all the information that they need. And you can't do that in a simple 30-minute video, or even a short story, or even one book. And that's the interesting thing about preparedness. It's an interesting thing about life. In order to do it right, you have to do it consistently, constantly. You have to do it the right way. And you have to do it with a spirit of positivism, of strength, not out of fear and weakness. And that's what these are about. Preparedness and survival, it's a matter of having, it's about equipment, it's about supplies, it's about skills, it's about community, it's about mindset. It's about all of these things. It's about a spiritual guidance from God. All of these things come together, and none of which you can ignore if you want to develop real and total preparedness. And you can. Now, for those of you just starting, or who aren't maybe as far along on the preparedness road as some others, I don't want you to be dissuaded. Realize that every step you take is an important step on that long journey. You're familiar with that old saying, the longest journey begins with a single step. Okay, right. And then it continues with the 2nd step, and a 3rd step, and a 4th step. And it's just a matter of putting all those steps together that is going to result in, finally, your journey will never end. You'll still be able to find ways to do more, and to do better, and to more prepared yourself, and to help other people. But every step you take is an important one. Just make sure that the steps you take are the right ones. And again, that's why I wrote the series, saying here are the right steps. And we see people sometimes making a wrong step, and then you learn from that. That's why people take notes through these books. I had somebody say, I marked up my first set. I'm ordering a second set. because I marked up my first set so much. It's got highlights, it's got scribbles, it's got statements, it's got questions, it's got all this kind of stuff. And I wanted a second set that wasn't all scribbled up. And I've had people say, I want a second or a third step because I want to send them as gifts to friends or lend them out. We have people that have actually made lending libraries out of these. The reason that I say that is not to pat myself on the back. I'm happy and I'm grateful. I'm thankful that people have gotten so much out of them. I'm thankful to the Lord that he guided me in this and that he gave me the ability to write these. But the purpose is that I'm thankful that people have been able to use these to better themselves, to better their situations, and to better prepare themselves for whatever may come our way. And I think that there could be a lot of very challenging and threatening things coming our way. So that is my advice, my lesson, my hope for you, that you will understand the depth and the breadth that goes into true, real preparedness. And understand that regardless of what the naysayers may say, and they're just people trying to hold you back. Don't let negative people hold you back. It can be accomplished. It can be accomplished. It can't be accomplished by next week or next month, okay? But when people say nobody could be that prepared, I know many people who are. They simply started a while back, they made the right steps, and they built themselves a life and a lifestyle that has given them tremendous peace because they know they are not only prepared for whatever may come, short of a Earth-destroying asteroid, but it has so improved the quality of their lives today. And that's why we say we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, but then I always add, but also to live better today, because that's what preparedness does. It not only gives you peace of mind, but in many other ways that I've talked about on previous videos, it will improve your life today. So that is what I wanted you all to think about today. What are you doing? What are you doing? You can leave your answers. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of people who are well down the road of preparedness, and I invite you all, leave your comments for our other newer people to read. And but all of you, leave your comments. Tell us what you're doing, what you've found, lessons you've learned, what your concerns are. And then remember, for those of you who aren't yet with us on the Patreon channel, I'm going to be putting a lot more over there as opposed to YouTube here. But join us on the Patreon channel. It's only $1 a month. I make it so anybody can join, and you get, because we put so much more information up over there, and not just the videos that I put up, but other resources in a community section that is just phenomenal, because we have such bright people who really are experts in many other fields, and as relates to preparedness. So anyway, think about that. Real preparedness, what it is. Real preparedness is total. It can be complicated, it can be complex, but it's simply a matter of putting a lot of individual steps together with understanding, not out of fear or anxiety, but with understanding on how it all works together. That's why I wrote the books. And every step you take are going to feel better. You're going to be more prepared and all that, but you should have that as your goal. Real preparedness is total preparedness, to be able to live separate from all of those external, interrelated systems over which you have little or no control. That's our goal, right? Okay, well, I hope this has given you something to think about. Again, leave your comments and your observations and your questions down in the comments section. And remember, and I'll say one more time, remember that these are available both on Amazon, which you can get them in paperback or in Kindle, and you can get them autographed from me through our website, stonemont.us, because this is the Stonemont Series stonemont.us. And then you can tell me what you'd like me to sign in them, and I'll get them in the mail to you. And it's great. I love the people that I'm able to do that for. It is more of a personal relationship, and I like that. So remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and also to improve our lives today. So do something today. Either get started or do more. Improve your life today while you're preparing to live well tomorrow. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.